Welcome to episode 2.3. This is the SharpMoney Positive EV Sports Betting course. My name is Robbie, and today we're going to talk about implied win probability, why it's so important, and how to actually do the math to calculate it yourself. Now, there are a lot of calculators out there, so you won't actually have to do the math yourself when you're trying to find bets, but it is important to understand how it works. All the odds you see on a sports book, they all have an implied win probability that is correlated with the set of odds. Basically, every odds has an implied win probability that is kind of the break even number of how many bets or percentage of bets you need to win betting at certain odds to break even. The easiest example is if you're betting plus 100 wagers or odds where you are putting $100 into a market, and if you win, you're returning exactly $100 of profit, then that is a plus 100 odds bet. And the implied win probability to a plus 100 odds bet is a 50% win probability, because that is the break even number where if you win 50% of the time, if I hand you 100 and lose it and then I win, then you give me 100, then it goes back and forth and it's break even long term. So plus 100 odds would correlate with a 50% win probability. So if I'm betting plus 100 odds, I need my win probability to be over 50% to actually become profitable. So if I'm betting plus 100 odds, but my edge is 51%, where I'm winning, or that I'm winning 51% of the time, then I have an edge in that market betting plus 100. Now, this also obviously correlates throughout all types of odds, and we'll do the math in a little bit, but I'll just explain the simple ones that you see typically. If you're betting plus 150 odds, then you need to win that bet 40% of the time to have an edge or to make money long term. If you're betting plus 200 odds, then you need to win that bet 33.33% of the time or more to make money with plus 200 odds. That's a real quick description of what implied win probability is. The next video, we're going to talk about the no VIG fair odds, which uses implied win probability and VIG to determine what the true value of a line should be. And that is probably the most important thing to be able to calculate when you're profitable sports betting. So it is really important for me to show you what VIG is and what implied win probability is before we talk about the no VIG fair odds. So before we do that, though, I'm going to break down the implied win probability formula on this whiteboard behind me, and I'll show you guys the actual math. Like I said, there are a lot of free calculators online. You'll never have to do this by hand, but it's just good to understand how it works. All right, we have the whiteboard out here. And first, we're going to solve for negative odds. Now, there are two different formulas for finding the win probability. This will just be for solving for American odds. So there are negative and positive American odds. Obviously, the positive odds being plus 120, plus 150, negative odds being minus 120, minus 150. So we're going to actually start with the negative odds here. The formula is for negative odds, the absolute value of the odds divided by the absolute value plus 100 in parentheses. So first, let's pick a random number here. Since this is a negative odds formula, let's just pick minus 125. So if you don't know what the absolute value is, it is just the value of the number as a positive or as a whole. So for the absolute value, since we're going to solve for minus 120, I'll just write that up there. So the absolute value for minus 120 is 120. And then we need to divide that by the absolute value plus 100. So we have the absolute value, which will also be 120, plus 100 will equal the implied win probability. The implied percent of winning. So pretty simple from here. Break the formula down one more time. We're going to have 120 on the top still. We have to solve for the bottom first since it's in parentheses. So this will be 220. And simply on my calculator, we will solve this one. So 120 divided by 220 equals 0.545 as a decimal. If we want to get this into a percentage, we would just simply multiply it by 100, which would give us 54.5%, which is the win probability of a minus 120 line. So if we are betting into minus 120 lines, we need to win 54.5% of our bets to break even. And if we want to make money, we need to win more than 54.5%. All right, here's the formula for the positive odds to find the implied win probability of any positive odds on a sports book. Now, before we get into it, I first want to just apologize for this big glare in the middle of the screen. Setting up the light, setting up the camera is not my cup of tea. I'm really not good at making these videos look great. The quality isn't perfect here, but it's really not my cup of tea. I'm more of a math guy and a sports bettor. So I hope you guys can live with that little glare. I'll try to avoid it for the most part. It's bothering me right now, but so I'm sure it's bothering you watching it. But all right, let's get into this formula. All right, so real simple formula here. For positive odds, we take 100 divided by the odds plus 100. Let's pick a random number here. Let's just pick one. We'll go plus 160. So we plug it in. We go 100 divided by 160 plus 100. This is in parentheses. I'm sorry. We solve for the bottom first, and that's going to give you your win percentage. So break it down one more step. 100 divided by 260. Do that on our calculator here. 100 divided by 260 is going to equal 0.384. We multiply that by 100 to get this decimal expressed as a percentage. It's going to equal 38.4%. So we can say that plus 160 odds equals 38.4%, meaning if you're betting plus 160, all we need to do is win 38.4% of our bets to break even. Anything above this win percentage is going to result in some long-term profits. That's going to wrap up this video on implied win probabilities. Next video, we're going to talk about the no-vig fair odds, how to calculate it, and how to use it against different books to make money.